Hello and welcome to your yin class today. We are going to finish class this afternoon, morning, whatever you want to call it, with a listening song for meditation. So the poses are really designed to get us into that state where we can really focus. The meditation is really meant to stimulate neurologically, so help us to stay really centered and really grounded, versus our last one where it was more to assist us into relaxation and sleep. So we're really going to focus on heart opening and body opening postures. So you will want a blanket or two, possibly a bolster. If you don't have a bolster, several blankets or a couple really thick towels can be used to create that, as well as some yoga blocks. The first one we're going to start with is going to be really to open up the chest and the heart. So from here, I'll invite you to grab one of your blankets or your large bath towels and to have a decent amount of fabric, enough so that in this rectangle-ish shape, the long side would be long enough to support your upper body. So, and then the shorter end doesn't matter so much because we're actually going to roll it up. So we're going to roll up the long edge of the blanket here and make a tightly bound roll, like you're rolling up a little bit of a burrito. So then once you have your roll, it's probably 5 inches or so in diameter, maybe a little less, maybe 3 to 5 inches. And it's pretty long. And then if you're like me and your blanket has some fringe, I'll invite you to have the fringe edge away from you, so closer to where your head will be as you lay down. As we come to lay on this prop, our low back is actually going to be free. So you'll start with a bit of space between you and your prop. And it's going to start right here around T12. So right where that thoracic spine begins and the lumbar spine ends. And then we're going to lay down with the spine right on the center of the roll here. Now you'll notice you have a lot of extra space overhead or extra blanket. So from there, we're going to fold it under. So that way our head is actually lifted above the body, creating a little bit of a pillow. It should feel this sense of the scapula or the shoulder blades just kind of draping off the sides of this roll that we've created. The chest is nice and open. And then your arms can either be down by your side if that's comfortable. Maybe it feels nicer to bring them straight out like a T, or maybe it's even nice to, my props are on the way on this side, but maybe it's even nice to find a cactus shape on the arms as well. And then the legs can be however's comfortable. So feel free to adjust your legs accordingly. And it should feel like just a nice, gentle release through the chest, as the roll just creates the space to allow the back body to drape around and over and the front body to really expand and open. Once you kind of land in your posture, we'll be here for about 3 minutes. So if the legs feel tired, it can be nice maybe to bend the knees, walk your feet out a little bit, and then let the knees knock together to give you that little bit of constructive rest or support through the bottom half. And then if you're in an environment that feels safe and comfortable to do so, I invite you to close the eyes. If that doesn't feel inviting today, maybe just softening the gaze to limit any extra distraction. And then just start to bring your awareness to your breath. Not really going to change it or manipulate it in any way, but just simply noticing how it flows through the body. If it feels restricted in any way, or if it feels like it can just flow freely, just simply noticing. Just noticing to the connective tissue of the front of the body, specifically the pecs or the chest area, where it connects with the shoulder and into the arm. Kind of visualize this lengthening of this interconnected system, this fascia, connective tissue, under the weight of gravity, gently decompressing and stretching and releasing. The beauty of a yin class is we're looking for a little bit of stimulus. So we feel just that initial first tug of like a stretch. But we're not going to our end range of motion. So it should really feel nourishing and rehydrating to the tissues. And then the next thing we want to do is once we find our position is to really linger in stillness. Really allow gravity to apply that needed stress to the tissues to help them to stretch. And we'll take just a couple more breaths here. Again, not changing the breath in any way, but again, just simply noticing the natural ebb and flow. And then whichever direction makes the most sense to you, you're just slowly going to roll onto one side, taking your time to get there, not rushing the body or the tissues in any way. And then just take a couple breaths once you land on your side. And from there, just use your hand that's on top to gently press you up to a seated posture. We're going to use that same prop, but we're going to fold it now. So go ahead and take it out of its rolled position. And we're going to fold it to have maybe a 2-inch thick rectangle shape. And again, we only need it to be about the size of the upper torso region, so it doesn't need to be too long. And we'll place it more towards that, depending on which direction you're facing, the right edge of your mat. And we're going to use that to come into a twist position. So we're going to kind of lay right next to it so for me, the blanket's on the right side of my mat. So it's going to be supporting my left arm. So my right arm and shoulder are off of the blanket completely. And then my spine or the edge of my left scapular shoulder blade is right on the edge of that blanket, right on the lip that it's creating. And then the rest of the shoulder and the arm are on the blanket as well. So it's providing a little bit of a lift. So the left shoulder should feel a little bit more elevated than the right shoulder. And then again, you can either have the arms straight or find that cactus shape if that feels more inviting. Make any adjustments you might need in order to allow yourself to settle into that stillness. And then allow the head to orient towards the ceiling rather than off to the side, or maybe even look over towards the left hand if that feels more inviting. And then again, we'll be here for about 3 minutes. So just bring that awareness back to the breath. Feel the left arm softening. And just this gentle twist of the thoracic spine. And again, it should feel really nourishing here through the mid back. And then also into the left shoulder, the left chest and arm. So just kind of imagine we could just draw a line down the center of the body. Everything towards the left side is feeling just a gentle release. And again, that nourishment and that rehydration of the surrounding tissues. And try not to hold the arm with any muscular endurance. Really allow that left arm to soften, to feel the weight of gravity. Again, if you notice the mind starting to wander, to come back to the sensations that you feel here in the body. And really allow your focus to kind of just settle right there. And take a couple more breaths here. And then just slowly start to bring the left arm back in. Assist it through the chest as it comes all the way, and you lay onto your right side. And then all we're going to do is switch to the other side. So feel free to take your time to get there. But you'll just gently pull your prop, your blanket towards facing it, the left side of the mat now. When you come to lay down, the left shoulder will be off. The spine kind of finds that first initial lip, and then the right shoulder can drape over, and maybe the arm extends, or maybe we find that cactus shape if that feels more inviting. Take your time to settle in. And then once you find yourself in your shape, again, we'll be here for about 3 minutes. Take a moment, maybe even to notice if it feels different side to side. Maybe you need to make little micro adjustments in order to settle into that stillness and really be able to surrender to the props and not have to feel like you're holding yourself in any way. And we'll be here for about 1 more minute. So just notice if there's tension somewhere that you can soften and really allow yourself to relax into the shape. And take maybe 2 or 3 more breaths. Again, just natural, relaxed breath. And slowly and gently bringing that right arm over until you're laying on your left side body. taking just a moment here to kind of regather and reset. And then whenever you're ready, pressing yourself up. And then we're going to come into a little bit more of a active one for the entire front body, saddle pose. So for this one, I'll invite you to grab all of the props we begin with. So we're going to use the blocks and the bolster to create a ramp of support. So the higher the ramp, the more support, obviously, and then the lower you set your ramp, less support. So it really depends on how flexible you feel like you are through the knees and through the quadriceps are a big one, but even the upper body. So for me, I like to set my first block on its low setting, and then the next block, depending, either on the high or the mid. So that way you're kind of giving yourself that nice bit of support. And then the bolster is just going to go right on the edge. So you're creating that little bolster of support there. So again, high or mid, depending, whatever you like. If you're on a hard surface, since we will be somewhat on the knees, it might be nice to take one of your blankets and drape it in front of the bolster, just to give yourself that little extra bit of padding for the knees. And feel free to take a moment to get rid of any creases or wrinkles that might be irritating to the skin. But as we come into this, we're going to allow the feet to frame the bolster. And when you have a seat towards the insides of your legs, so you'll see I'm not sitting on my heels, I'm actually sitting inside. You want your tailbone to be right next to the bolster, so there's not a whole lot of space. But what we don't want to do is be sitting on the bolster. So we want to make sure we're just right next to it, sitting to the inside of the knees. And then use your hands behind you to slowly lower the upper body onto your prop. And it might be nice if the head needs extra support, maybe you take another blanket and place it underneath the head there. And this is your saddle pose. Now, if this doesn't feel comfortable on your knees or on your quadriceps, you'll have the same setup, but you'll take Baddha Konasana or butterfly pose instead for the legs. So we'll, again, sit with the tailbone right up against the bolster, and your legs will be bottom of the feet together with the knees wide. You'll take the hands behind you, and you'll slowly lower yourself onto your prop. So I'll give you a minute to decide which one feels more inviting today. Obviously, saddle pose is a little bit more active, and this one here with the butterfly shaping of the legs, a little bit more passive. They both have beautiful benefits, so one's not better than the other. Just really choose what's going to feel better for you today and in your practice. So again, I'll give you a minute to get settled in. And then once you're nice and settled, we'll allow ourselves just to linger in the shape. And notice, especially if you're in saddle pose, the mind might be focusing on the sensation in the quadriceps. So allow that to be there, but maybe even start to focus just for a moment on the discomfort that perhaps this invites. As long as it's not painful, we don't want to do anything that's painful. But if there is a little bit of discomfort, just to notice what that feels like, to allow ourselves to sit in that. It's such our human instinct to move away from things of that sort. But if we have knee pain or hip pain, allowing the quadriceps to stretch might be really useful to helping with that. Just notice what it feels like to allow the mind to focus on that discomfort. And then I invite you to find an area of the body that has no discomfort, maybe even just a neutral sensation. Maybe that's the shoulders or the arms in this pose. And allow your awareness to settle there on this area that doesn't have a lot of sensation. And just notice the beauty of awareness in the mind when we allow it to focus on something without sensation or pain. Suddenly, we no longer notice what the discomfort was, even if it was just for a brief moment. So anytime you notice that discomfort and it feels uninviting, as long as it's not painful, maybe we can allow the awareness to come somewhere else and allow ourselves to linger in that stillness. We'll be here for about 30 more seconds. So again, just keep coming back to that breath. And then just slowly start to place the hands on the arches of your feet. Gently tuck your chin to your chest to just gaze down the body before moving anything else. And then press the hands into the feet to lift the torso off the prop. And take just a moment to breathe. And then slowly walk the hands forward, gently coming out of this pretty intense quadricep stretch. And take your time to come out, maybe even lengthening the legs slowly in front of you, or whatever feels really inviting to come out of that shape. Maybe it's something else, maybe it's some movement or something else of that sort. And then we're going to leave our setup exactly as it is and come into a little variation of deer pose. If your prop is a little too high, for me, I know that'll be a little too high, you might want to remove your bottom block. But perhaps for you, maybe you try it and then you like it. And if not, you can always take a block away. So we're going to set the legs up in somewhat of a 90-90 shape. There'll be about 4 to 6 inches of space between your thigh and the bolster. And then you just want to kind of have this femur bone running parallel with the short edge of your bolster, your shin somewhat in line with the long edge of your mat, and then your back leg shin somewhat in line with the short edge of your mat. Anywhere in that vicinity, and if something doesn't feel good, feel free to make adjustments. Listen to your body. You know what feels good and what doesn't. Go ahead and walk the hands to frame the bolster. And then we want to really drape the entire rib cage. So imagine this sense of lengthening through the torso and starting here at this bottom rib cage, slowly draping it onto the bolster and coming all the way down. From there, let the arms release. So you're using the bolster to support you and to hold you in this shape. And take a couple of breaths here. And again, notice if the legs aren't comfortable, you can always slide this back leg in and stack it on top of the front leg, or make any adjustments to make this feel really accessible to you. And then just for a moment, maybe take the head gazing behind you and just notice how that feels. You may like that better, or you may not have liked it and you bring the head right back to facing the same direction as the knees. But just know that's an option to twist through the cervical spine as well. And if you like it, feel free to take that variation. And allow this gentle twist to come from this hip and low back region, and the twist of the upper body coming from that thoracic spine, gently just to kind of decompress the entire spine. Take a couple more breaths here. And walk your hands in. Gently press yourself up. All we're going to do is transition to the other side. So taking your time. Again, bringing that thigh closest to your bolster, about 4 to 6 inches away. Finding this general 90-90 of the legs. Lengthening through the torso, and then unraveling as you come down and letting the arms be released. Notice if you feel like you're pushing into the arms or the shoulders at all. Maybe even rotating the palms towards the sky. And again, now you can always play around with the rotation of the head and the neck. And take a couple more breaths here. And then again, just slowly walk the hands in and gently use that to press yourself up and away from your prop. Okay, so we're gonna set up for our final relaxation pose, but I do want to explain to you a little bit about the meditation that you'll hear. I found a song because I know you're not gonna want to hear me sing it to you, but there's 4 syllables, sa, ta, na, ma, and this is a Kirtan Kaira meditation. And so there's a mantra, which is the words that you're gonna hear, and there's a mudra, which is what we're gonna do with our hands, which can be very neurologically stimulating. So this is really nice to kind of set the tone for the day. So when you hear the words being said, sa, ta, na, ma, we're just going to place the thumb onto one finger at a time. So the thumb will touch the index finger for sa. For ta, it'll touch the middle finger. For na, it'll touch the ring finger. And for ma, it'll touch the pinky. So sa, ta, na, ma. And you'll just hear that, and it'll go on repeat for about 10 to 11 minutes. The song will give us about 45 seconds to get settled in, and about a minute to come out. So we'll be here for about 13 minutes total. So I say this so you can get into a really comfortable posture, something you can maintain for 13 minutes. So I'll give you some suggestions. I like to have my knees on the bolster, which gives my low back a lot of support. And I'm going to walk you through a really nice neck roll, which will also give us some padding for the eyes to help us really kind of stay centered and relax here. So we're coming back to that initial amount of fabric we had when we did our heart opening posture. So you have a really big rectangle. And again, if you have any fringe, I'll invite you to have the fringe away from you instead of under you, which sometimes can just be a little irritating. So go ahead and find your posture of laying down. And if you are going to be doing the neck roll with me, if you're already laying down, the tops of the shoulders are just going to be right at the base of this blanket. So don't lay on the blanket. Just lay right next up to it. So as you come to lay down, you'll pull the blanket to just the top edges of the actual shoulders, so like the trap region rather than the scapula. And then lift your head once you have it in place, and you're just going to roll the blanket enough that you feel like your cervical spine, your arch of your neck is in line with your spine. So you have this natural plumb line. So again, it's not rolled all the way up, but it's rolled just enough that you have that natural little plumb line. From there, you're just going to tuck the sides in enough that it kind of creates this cocoon, giving our sides of our neck our support, the back of our neck support as well. You should be left with a little bit of fabric above you. And for that little bit, we're going to drape that on the eyes, creating like a little bit of an eye pillow. So again, you make that little roll to give your cervical neck that support. You tuck in around the sides, and then you drape the top part over the eyes to give you that little bit of an eye pillow. Again, that's just an option. If you don't like one or all of it, feel free to take that away. And I'm going to go ahead and start the song so you can hear that. And again, like I mentioned, it'll give you about 45 seconds to get settled and to get into it. And then you'll hear the words, and we'll start that little hand move of it. Go ahead and start with your thumb and your index finger already touching.
Sa
here is where I'll leave you. If you have time to linger, I encourage you to stay. Whatever you need for the remainder of your day. Thank you so much for joining me for your yin class. Be well.